First off, welcome to Minnesota, and what excites you about this opportunity?
You know what? I've always been one of those guys that when you go from place A to B, it's a new adventure. It's a new start of your life, and with a new team and getting to know everybody in a new city. I think it's exciting rather than looking at it from the other end of having to move from one place to another place. But, you know, my wife and my kids, they've always just said, "Hey, where are we going next?" And that was it. There was no crap, we're leaving this town. So we're looking forward to it. You know what? As few games as I played when I was in St. Paul. The team folded. That's why I didn't play more. But I mean, it was a great place to be, and I have great memories of this area. So I'm looking forward to it.
Chuck Fletcher mentioned your record in the regular season at 409 and 192. You've been able to adapt even in season like we saw this year with the Ducks. You went from an offensive team back to a real structured defensive team. Knowing the division you play in with the Chicagos, the Dallases, the St. Louises, the Nashvilles, how does this team have to play this year?
I think they already know how to play against Chicago. They've had some good success against them. But, I mean, this is a speed division. And, you know, and Winnipeg's going to be a lot better, too, and Colorado's got speed. So, I mean, it's we're going to have to be fast, but we're going to turn a lot of pucks over and create a lot of offense through that. And at the same time, we're going to hopefully now we're all going to be able to defend and know our responsibilities when we don't have the puck.
As a head coach, you've had some great leaders in your locker rooms from Washington all the way through to Anaheim. Here you've got Mikko Koivu, Parise and Ryan Suter. When I mention those three names, what comes to mind?
Well, Mikko, I think of Saku, who I had in Anaheim. And if he's anything like Saku, he's a great leader. And that's the first impression I get. Zach, I've watched him play since he played in Albany in the lockout year and in Jersey, and I always thought if just follow him in his work ethic how can you not be impressed with it? And then Ryan is one of those guys that is the best at the profession he's chosen. And I mean, he's smart. He'll be able to skate the same way maybe for another 10 years. He can make that first outlet pass. And I believe that these guys are all winners and want to win. And I think they're hungry to win. And when I look at the game, I know I'm going to ramble here a bit, but when you lost to Dallas, to me the moment that I knew this team really wanted to win was when Pominville scored and everybody jumped up. I mean, they were one goal behind. It was an emotional thing for them, and quite frankly, they were half an inch away from making it to Game 7.
Great coaches have to be great psychologists, and this is a team, for whatever reason, that has always been at their best when their back is to the wall, like you saw in Game 6 against Dallas, but they've always had stretches in the middle of the season when they've gained a place of comfort and they've fallen back and had a tough time being consistent throughout the regular season. What about your coaching style can change that around?
Well, the one thing I didn't mention up there is we have a lot of short-term goals. So if our goals are a weekly goal, then every week's a new week. If you go 0-3, then that week's put behind you. Now we want to win the week the next week. So it's a new goal, and there's short-term goals where you don't have to say, "Oh man, I got to play good for 6 weeks," you know, just to get to where you want to go. So we do a lot of little psychological things like that and make them think in short periods of time, and then during the games it can become 5-minute segments and so forth. So it's not like, man, I got to be great for the whole game. Just be great for the next 5 minutes, and then you go through the next 5 minutes, and eventually you look at it and the game's over, and you've been really good because you've focused on these short periods of time. So I mean, those are just couple of the things that I do.
The beauty of the National Hockey League is these divisions. You play them in the playoffs. The rivalries certainly get stoked up from player to player. We've seen you as a coach with a lot of fire. I look back at the game with Patrick Waugh, Game 1 a couple years ago, where you guys were going at the plexiglass against each other. Inside the division, you've got him, you've got Joel Quenneville, you've got Ken Hitchcock. These are legendary coaches. Is there going to be rivalries amongst the coaches still?
Oh, yeah. Joel's a good friend of mine, and Mike Kitchen's a good friend of mine, so we go at it pretty hard. Ken, you just want to beat. You know, Peter, I've gone from the American League battling with him to the NHL and Carolina in the Eastern Conference, and now I mean, obviously they won this year, so it's going to be a good rivalry. Patrick, I'm still afraid of him, by the way.
Me too.
It scared the life out of me that night, and but there's a rivalry there. I think there's going to be great rivalries. Paul is the same thing in Winnipeg. So I mean, I don't think and Lindy and I, when he was in Buffalo, we'd play him 5 times a year every year, and there was really good battles, and we had a playoff series against Dallas already, and like I've been involved in 3 playoff series, all against Central Division teams, or when you look at Winnipeg, Dallas, and Nashville. So the rivalry is already set in there. We're going to want to. And everybody knows the Central Division is as good as any division in the league, and so every game is going to be more important, and you're going to see a little jump in